What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Fix It Garage. Today we need to fix the daily. The CRV that I drive every day to and from work, well, it's broken. Very, very, very broken. What's wrong with it? You turn the key and the starter goes click, 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 and it doesn't start. The starter has failed on this car. Not super uncommon for these K-Series Honda motors to have a starter failure, especially when you get into higher mileage. So not a big deal. I'm gonna show you guys how to change the starter on this without taking the entire intake off, meaning from the bottom of the car. I'm gonna show you guys some tips and tricks. I'm gonna walk you guys through the process. We're gonna do a little bit of a how-to on this car. So maybe if your starter goes out, you can change it with confidence at home. But before we get started, if you guys like this kind of content, don't forget to smash that like button, leave some comments down below, and subscribe for more Fix It Garage videos. I got some more stuff coming up with this car over the next few weeks that we're gonna be doing to this to keep it up in tip-top shape. It needs some maintenance and some love, and it's time to give it to it. But for today, we're gonna be changing out that starter, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly how it's done. So looking inside this engine bay, you can't really see anything, but the starter's underneath here. So on some K-Series engines, you have to take off this intake manifold to get to the starter. On this car, you can do that, but good luck getting this intake out of the car because there's not a whole lot of room to remove it. The other option is you can do it from the bottom on certain vehicles. This one happens to be one of them where you can. It's a tight fit and you gotta squeeze your hand in some really tight places. But you can change the starter without pulling the intake manifold and it'll save you some time, but it will be a little bit of a headache. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but it can be done. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to jack up the front end of this car, get it higher off the ground so we can pull that splash shield off and get to the starter. Okay, so we got our splash shield off out of the way, bungeed. And if you look underneath, right up in there is our starter motor. It looks like it's completely crowded by stuff, but we can unhook some of these wires and get them out of the way, and there'll be just enough room to get the starter out. When I say just enough room, I mean just enough room. This is a very tight squeeze. If you don't feel comfortable doing it this way, you can pull the intake off, but I'm gonna show how to do it this way in this video, just because that's how I would do it. Again, some of these cars, when you look up in here, there'll be like a motor mount, there'll be a bunch of stuff blocking your view that makes it impossible and you have to take the intake off. But if it looks like this, you are probably safe to do it without taking off the intake, and I'm gonna show you guys how I do it. So let's go ahead. We're gonna disconnect the battery and then we're gonna start pulling this starter motor out. First thing we need to do is we need to unplug this connector and take off the bracket for the connector that holds it in place. Once we get that one connector undone, we're gonna need to unplug that knock sensor. That's gonna give us a little bit more room to get a tool in there because on the back side of the starter, there's a 14mm bolt that we need to undo to get the top starter bolt off, along with this lower one. So we're gonna need to unplug that knock sensor and remove this connector and connector bracket out of the way. So let's go ahead and start off by doing that. Oh. Hey, there we go. All right, so we got this knock sensor out, which is going to give us more room up higher to get the starter out for that 14mm bolt. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and try and get that 14mm bolt loose. I would love to show you where it is, but there is no easy way to get a camera up in there and provide enough light for you guys to see it. But I am going to show you guys putting the tool in and getting it all set up, but there's just no way to put a camera up in there in that spot. Unfortunately, the starter on this is not the most camera-friendly job, but it is definitely something that I know a lot of people are gonna need to do on this car, so I'd love to show you guys how I do it. So let's go ahead and let's try to get that 14 loose that's up and back in here, and I will try to find a camera angle that kind of shows where it is and how to get to it. So let's go ahead and switch everything up, and I'll catch you guys back when I found a way to show you how to do this. Okay, so I think I found a good camera angle, because I'm gonna come up through here and get the bolt loose. So first thing we need is some kind of 14 millimeter and a extension. And you have to feed it, and this is where it gets really tricky. You have to feed it up past the starter, and then you have to kind of blind find the bolt that it goes on, which I think I found it. If I can get the thing on, that'd be great. Aha. Okay. So now my tool is on there, and of course it's a black extension, so you can't see anything, but you can kind of see it if I move this harness out of the way. That extension way up there, that is where you have to put your extension on that 14 millimeter bolt, which I'll show you guys when I get it out. But now I'm gonna stick the ratchet up there, and we're gonna get that 14 millimeter bolt out. Okay, so I was a little wrong. I thought I had the right tool. Let me grab a different 14 and a different extension, and we'll try this again. Part of remembering how to do this and showing you guys is I actually have to remember how I do this normally. So now we have a chrome longer 14 with a really, really short extension. And we're gonna send this up in here and hope that I picked the right stuff this time. And the second time I'm still wrong. We're going to change it up again. This is called learning from my own mistakes. We're gonna use that mid 14 with that really short stubby extension. And that should be the right one this time. All right, there we go. Now we've got the extension on. The extension sits a lot shallower, so now I have more room to get the ratchet in there. It's very dirty, and it does beat your hands up a lot when you're doing this job, especially if you're not wearing gloves. I took it off so I could feel. I took the gloves off so I could feel a little bit better, but I highly advise wearing gloves when doing this. All right, we got our ratchet on there. Let's go ahead and try to get this bolt loose. All right, so we got that bolt loose, which was quite the challenge. As you just saw me struggling with different ratchet and tool setups. But it is definitely loose. Now I'm up there with 2 fingers twisting that bolt out. Not the easiest thing to do. This technique takes a lot, but you can also get away with like leaving the socket up there and the extension, and you can get your fingers on that and you can kind of spin it. Or if you can get a short enough extension in there and like a really stubby ratchet, you could also use that as well. That is another technique that works. No matter how you look at it, this part kind of sucks. Okay, so we have that 14 millimeter up there almost completely out. So now we need to get this, now I need to get this 17 millimeter over here out. I like to break this bolt loose before I take that bolt all the way out, because sometimes if you do take that bolt all the way out, this can cause the starter to spin around in there, and I want it just to come loose. So let's go ahead and let's get this 17 loose, and we'll get the 14 followed by the 17, and we can pull this starter out. All right, one starter bolt, upper one.
What probably took about 30 seconds for you guys on a time lapse took me about 20 minutes to get out because I'm sitting there with the finger going like this the whole time. Or towards the end, I was able to get a hand on it and spin a little bit with my thumb. This bolt is very hard to get in and out. So yes, we got it out. We're through the hardest part of taking the starter out, but we still have to put this bolt back in, which is going to be a challenge. But now we're gonna get this other bolt out up here, and then we can pull the starter down and unhook the electrical wires from it and replace it. So let's go ahead and get that out now. And just like that, bottom bolt is out. Much easier than that top bolt. Just right in here and it's done. So let's go ahead, we'll get this bolt sit down and we'll pull the starter down and I'll show you guys how to unhook all the wiring from it. So the trick to getting this starter out is you have to slide it back and bring the nose of the starter, the end that goes into the flywheel, you need to bring that down first. All right, so we have our starter now sitting down in this position. Perfect. This is where we need it so we can unhook the wiring from it. So up first, this wire right here is our exciter wire. It is already unhooked. So now I just need to unhook this right here and then we can pull the starter out. So let's go ahead and get this unhooked. Nut is off, slide the wire off, starter is now unplugged, and we can slide the starter out just like that. All right, while the starter is out, let's just quickly take a look up in here. There's still not a lot of room. This wire right here is what'll go to the starter, your main. And up here, way up here, is the other wire that you need. Up here, we have the exciter wire, which you guys can't even really see, but it is up here. It is buried behind connectors and coolant hose and everything. This is the one that's going to be very, very hard to reinstall, just because this is a slide-on connector, older style. Brand new K-series, it'll be a plug, which makes it a lot easier because you just unplug and plug in this wire and you're good to go. On this, you have to slide it on and off, so it's getting the starter back in and sliding this on and making sure that it has good contact is very important. Otherwise, you'll get it all done and your car won't start, which we don't really want that. So now we can go grab our brand new starter and put it in and get it all hooked up. All right, here we have our brand new Honda starter. Open it up. Starter's right there inside. If you buy one from Honda, they come with a core fee. Make sure you return the old ones so you can get some of your money back. Big thing, people will buy these remanufactured ones and not return the old one, and they won't get back their core fee. That's money you can get back just because you return the part, because these get sent back to Honda and they rebuild them again so they can be resold and reused. Boxed up and ready to be returned to a Honda dealer. Now we're ready to put in our brand new starter. First things first, we need to slide the starter in and reconnect this wire, and then we can put the starter back into its home. Okay, so now we have the starter back up in place with no bolts in it, so we need to bolt it back up. But one of the tricks to getting this back in is you have to take the back end of the starter and put it as far up in this back corner as you can between the thermostat and the block. That will allow you to push it in there far enough to swing the front nose of it up, get it back into the flywheel hole. This is a very tough process, and I'm trying the best to get the best footage of it, but there's not a whole lot of room, so bear with me, guys. We got to get this bottom, so opposite of how I did before, we're going to put the bottom bolt in first, Make sure when you put it in, you don't tighten it all the way. I'm gonna snug it up, just so that way then the starter will sit where it needs to, making it easier to get that back, the upper 14mm bolts started. Okay, so we have both the bolts reinstalled, so the starter's back in. Now what we need to do is we need to get the knock sensor reinstalled and get that exciter wire back on. So let's go ahead and start off by putting on that exciter wire, and then we will start working on getting the knock sensor reconnected. Okay, and just like that, we've got everything hooked back up and plugged in. So the next thing we need to do is connect the battery and start the car and make sure that it works. So let's go ahead, get the battery connected and try to start this car up. All right, here goes nothing. Perfect, starts every time now. Alrighty guys, so that is a step-by-step of how to do a starter on a K-Series. Now, again, this was not the easiest one to film because of the fact that I didn't need to take off the intake manifold, and taking it off would have been a huge pain. And I was struggling. This was not easy. I always forget how much I don't like doing these starters. And then I was reminded by working on my own car. I don't like doing these at work half the time on these older CRVs. And so having to do it at home, really not very much fun. But we got the starter in, it works. Everything is great now. Now I don't have to worry about this thing not starting when I go anywhere. But as you can see by my shirt, my hands, and my face, this is a very dirty job. Like, just be prepared, you're gonna get dirty. You're gonna get dirt in your eyes and you make your eyes really mad, like I have. Just be prepared to get dirty and it's gonna be a messy job, but it's worth it. If you can do it yourself, you're gonna save yourself a lot of money when doing one of these. These are very expensive to have done, usually at dealerships. So that's how you do a starter on one of these. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. Otherwise, that is gonna do it for today's video, guys. I wanna thank everyone for watching. If you like what you saw, don't forget to smash the like button, leave some comments down below, and subscribe to catch more videos working on the daily with some step-by-step videos on things that I'm gonna be doing. Next up for this car, we're gonna be doing the front brake pads and rotors, and I'm going to have a step-by-step instruction on how to do those brakes. But with that being said, I wanna thank all you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.